Live button, we're going live.
Hello, it's April 14th, 2022, and this is the weekly Backdrop developer meeting. We get together and talk about priorities for Backdrop Core. Let's do some introductions real quick of those present. My name is Nate Lampton, calling in from Oakland, California. I'm core committer, and I go by Quick Sketch on the internet. We'll go Tim and then Robert. Sorry, Tim. Aren't we taking a drink?
Okay, I totally surprised you with the go live button there. Sorry about that. I'm Tim Erickson. I'm St. Paul Tim, and I'm in Deerwood, Minnesota. And that's it. And I was drinking and not listening. Robert, did you go yet?
Mhm.
No.
I'm Robert Lang, bug folder on the internet in Altadena, California.
Okay. Yeah, that's it for today. Welcome, Tim, and welcome, Robert. Thanks for being here today. All right, let's see. Contributed project updates. We have one new contrib module released in the past, well, 2 weeks actually. We didn't do this update last week either. Views nested accordion, new views display plugin module for, well, for views. That was released about 2 weeks ago. Thank you for the creation of that new module. And today, our agenda is really just talking about what Backdrop 122, I think. That'll be the next release. Feature freeze is in a little over 2 weeks on May 1st, 2022. So not a whole lot of time to find last minute things or to wrap up the things that we've got, but we do have some issues that are really closing in on completion that we're hoping to get shipped out in 122 probably very soon here. So first of all, let's talk about issue 4903, the new defaults content type out of the box called card, which uses the hidden path functionality. It's issue 4903. Tim, can you give us an update on where we're standing there?
Sure. So as of last week, I believe at the meeting last week, I was not here at the meeting last week, but the status was that we had sort of reopened a bit of a discussion on the appearance of the cards, sort of color scheme and such. And it was suggested that Olaf and I get together and just sort of make a decision. And we did. So we met on Friday or I think Friday and had a meeting, and we talked last week and talked about it. And I can go ahead and share my screen quick. We've already updated the PR. This was one of the options that we were looking at. These were 3 different colors, completely different colors, and we've gotten some feedback from a designer, from Wes, the creator of Basis, who thought, one, that some of the cards, maybe the color was too bold and they didn't necessarily fit in with the color scheme of Basis. And he had provided some options, and then Olaf provided some options, and we had did a little sort of preference vote. And I don't know that this was the most popular solution, but it was in the top 3. It was quite distributed, people's preferences. Everybody liked something different. This was one of the more popular ones, and it also one that was seemed most acceptable to the widest number of people. It also does fit the color scheme somewhat better than the previous option. And we can change this in the future. We just need, I think our decision right now is just to pick something and go with it. And then if we want to, we opened a new issue, or I went ahead and opened a new issue, which said, if we want to, let's go back and look at the whole look of the front page with a designer from the outset. I think part of the problem we had was bringing in a designer 250 comments into a topic and trying to get input, and that was too late, and it kind of muddled the waters. Mm-hmm. So hopefully this is a good compromise solution and we can move forward. So I did get some feedback from Olaf and from Robert. Well, Robert had given some feedback a couple weeks ago that I forgot about. And I updated the PR for this as recently as an hour ago. With some of those changes, it doesn't have I had some questions that I needed to talk to Robert with about regarding his suggestion. So that's not in the PR yet, but it's a minor text. It's like a label thing. And Olaf had a couple of changes, some of which I got into the latest PR, but one or two of them I'm going to probably add after the meeting. So I don't think we're stuck on anything. I haven't got any feedback on pro or con on the color, on our color choice for these cards. Really, but this PR has been up for several days now, and we haven't gotten any feedback on specifically on that. So, and there was Nate, you might want to look at Peter made a comment about the way we're generating the content for this, and he suggested something about putting it in a module instead of the install profile, and that, I'm hoping that if that's a real issue, it can be broke out and dealt with later. But you might want to take a look and see if there's a concern there that you raised that we need to think about now. But that's the one big thing. The other things are just a few really minor things that we're changing, and I don't foresee any blockers that are holding us up right now. That's it. Any
Okay.
questions?
Let's see. Tim and Robert, together, are you guys clear on the naming changes that were suggested and what needs to be done to get those changes made?
Well, we could talk about them quickly, or we could not. It doesn't matter. The Robert had originally suggested this grid is called right now is named card grid, the view, and Robert had suggested like home page or home card grid, and then we realized one, it's not a grid, so we're going to drop the grid from the line. And then we also realized that this is the view below is promoted content, and that is on the front page. And I didn't see why the grid view could go on any page. So we decided, he and I talked about this, we decided that maybe putting home in the name was too specific, but that if we renamed it to promoted cards, then we would have a promoted cards view and a promoted content view, which would line up nicely alphabetically in the list of views, and it might also just be a little easier for people to understand. So that was sort of the compromise Robert and I came up with. We haven't gotten feedback from anybody else yet. Anything to add, Robert?
No. That was that was one of the suggestions I put in my last comment, and no one has at least objected to that as a comment. So there's hope that it will fly.
Well,
Okay.
I'll go ahead.
I have posted a comment. I'm going to hopefully come back to that, find the tab after this meeting. That I don't think putting it into a submodule is necessary or even probably the right approach. I think putting it in the profile the way that we have so far is all the correct and right thing to do. And instead, like the problem that Peter is raising is that our tests are doing a lot of work to clean up the default content when he's suggesting it just shouldn't be there in the first place, which I totally agree with. But the way that we should do that is by using the testing or minimal profile, which doesn't have the default content, rather than the standard profile in so many of our tests. And this has been a long-standing thing that lots and lots of our tests use the standard profile when they only need to test something that is completely profile agnostic. However, since we added profile caching to our test runs, it has a very minimal impact on the speed of running the tests now, because it doesn't really matter which profile you use. All of the completed installations are cached now, so it's really not as urgent as it once had been. So I'll just post a comment along those lines, saying that I think that we're good with the current approach. And really, even if we could find a better approach, I'm not sure that we should do it right now. Yeah, because we also have other default content that kind of set the precedent for this, the node one, the sample blog post. So we're just continuing the mechanism that we already have available.
But my response to any proposed changes to this are, can they be a follow-up issue?
Follow up, yeah.
Like, if it has to go into this issue, we'll talk about it. But if not, let's make it a follow-up issue and get this done. It's like 280 comments, and yeah, there.
Totally.
Like Robert's comments about the naming are like just above the ones that show at the bottom. So every time I want to find that post, I have to hit read more like 6 times. And it's a real pain in the butt. I wish there were a way to just show all the comments at once. Is there, Robert or Nate, do you know how to do that? To just show all the comments?
I just click multiple times. There probably is a shortcut, but yeah.
Well, right now you have to click like 6 times in order to get to the bottom.
That's just GitHub discouraging you from having long issues. Yeah. Okay. Okay, great. So that actually sounds like it's coming along pretty well. Fantastic. Speaking of things that have been coming along pretty well, but have gotten a little stuck, is issue 9392, dropping support for versions of PHP prior to 5.6. I am really strongly inclined to go ahead and move that into core and just merge it as it is right now. The only feedback we have on there is that IndigoZella did a code review about a month ago that basically pointed out some things. It's like we could take this a little bit further, that there's some things that aren't fully explained, whether or not we need or could remove some additional backwards compatibility things. Particularly, there's a couple of places where we're using the @ sign to suppress error output when dealing with files. And yeah, the question is, could we remove that? And I don't really know. So I kind of think that we should just leave them there for this pass, and maybe I'll put a to do in there saying, determine if this can be removed. But that one's very, very close, and we should go ahead and get that in. The longer we wait, just the more likely it is that we'll miss something in the actual release of 122. Let's see. Other issues that we've got. Issue 5003. This is a new feature request that just adds links to backdropcms.org and GitHub for each contributed project. This one was part of OpenForce, I believe, and so it's a new contributor that has been working to get these small links added to the modules page. I reviewed this just before the meeting, and it was almost there, but there's just a couple of issues where if it's a custom module or a contrib project that contains multiple projects, it didn't handle those situations quite correctly. So I marked that back down to needs work. I'm hoping Rakesh, the person that has been working on it, has the time to revisit that. Looks like Peter's already jumped back in and is helping move that forward. So I'm hoping that can get wrapped up as well.
That Rakesh actually is still around. He just commented in Zulip like a day or two ago. So
oh, excellent.
I think he would be open to working on that some more.
Yeah, I think that he's already got the right idea. I even saw that he posted some code samples up above that were exactly what he needed to do, but just in the wrong spot. So, okay, great. That one is really simple and should be able to move forward real easily. Then let's see. Oh, issue 5499 is the issue that Robert, you and RG were working on together, RG Piano, on enabling dependencies, backdrop dependencies when upgrading from Drupal 7. It's kind of a complicated situation where certain dependencies aren't getting enabled when you upgrade from 777. I'll leave the explanation at that. But issue 5499, I merged that in just before the meeting. So that issue is now solved, and that should help a lot with people upgrading from 777, particularly if their new site depends on Entity Plus. That was the primary use case that we were running into often. So that should help a lot with people upgrading from 777, we hope. All right. The only other issue that we've slated or marked in the 122 milestone is issue 5348. This is Gregory's advocate issue. Allow forms to set custom validation error messages on required fields. We haven't seen actually any progress on this cycle. It was bumped from 121. I think that's probably, I think Greg has been super busy for the past couple of months, so I think that he just hasn't had time to look at that. However, it's still a good issue, and he did push it forward a fair amount previously. Tim, do you have something to add there?
Well, not when we finish this issue.
Okay, and so I think that if there were some volunteered to help push forward on the code side, I wouldn't surprise me at all if Greg could reemerge to do the validation of that particular feature request. Yeah, let's go ahead and move on. So, Tim?
Well, I wanted to ask you if you saw the disabled blocks issue.
No, I didn't.
We have a new feature. Doc Wilmot pulled a rabbit out of the hat.
Oh,
One of our top 8 issues on the feature survey was to allow blocks to be disabled instead of removed. And he had a module, he had an existing contrib module for that. And so he did a pull request yesterday or the day before that does that, and it's pretty near completion. So when you said it's getting late to come up with new issues, as usual, so it's issue 1936. And again, like the details, right now there are 2 issues. One is just changing the contrast on a disabled block, and then Doc Wilmot asked 4 hours ago if we need an upgrade path. But other than that, the module seems to be doing what it says it's doing, and we just have to decide if, in fact, we want to put that in core, I guess.
Mm-hmm. Looks wonderful. Yeah, taking a look at it now. Yeah, I think you're right. We should run the text through an accessibility contrast checker to make sure that we're at least AA if possible. A level of accessibility. The nice thing about using one of those accessibility checkers is that it kind of removes the opinion and just like this is algorithmic. You know, we can let the computer determine what is AA.
Well, my question about this is we have, so this does look like the contrast might be weaker, but we have equivalent examples. We can see them above in the screenshots that Olaf and I posted. And so my question is, are those other examples conforming with accessibility standards? And if so, we have a model, or is this a bigger problem than just this new issue?
That's a really good point. Yeah, if there's already existing text examples for something that is disabled or otherwise like hidden, then yeah, let's use what we have and then make another issue for the accessibility. I think that's also a totally valid approach. If there's already some accessibility problems, then that should be solved as a bug. Anyway, that looks really cool. Issue 1936, disable blocks instead of removing them. Yeah, that's a very helpful functionality. Awesome. All right, there's one more issue that I definitely want to bring up as something that should get some attention, and that's issue 1301, our good old put reference module in core, or some references module in core. And this has really changed a lot in the past couple of months. The direction has shifted from making a new from the ground up references module to using entity reference, with HerbDuel spearheading the effort. Like we've talked about in the last couple of meetings, I think we've decided that entity reference is not even decided, but just like acknowledged that entity reference is the most widely used reference module for Backdrop, the one that has the most dependencies, the one that has the most capabilities. And with the work that HerbDuel has done, is also the easiest one for us to incorporate directly into core. So with all of those data points, we've really heavily shifted away from making a new ground up module to just using entity reference and literally just like plopping the whole module, the contrib module as it exists today, into core. The place where we are with this now is that this has a pull request. HerbDuel's plopped it into core. I think that we need to do the little bit of work to add the module to Backdrop merged modules. I think that that's just literally adding one line, and then testing, seeing what the experience is like moving from the contrib entity reference to moving to the core one. Since it's literally the same module, I believe that that process should be no different than all of the other contrib modules who moved into core, including things like redirect module, link module, email module. It's just a higher impact thing, is because references can be so widely used that there's a lot of field configuration and content that would be dependent upon entity reference. So I think that the process should all be the same as it was for all of the other modules. It's just we still need to manually go through the confirmation to make sure that this works as we expect. Yeah, so basically issue 1301 needs review. It also wouldn't hurt if there's any other concerns people have about entity reference and the way that it is written right now, that they provide feedback as to the overall implementation of entity reference. And then for those sorts of issues, probably would be best handled as issues filed against the entity reference contrib project. And then from there, once it's addressed, pull that into the pull request for core. It is a little bit, I wonder how much effort it is to maintain that pull request, because it maintains the entire Git history of entity reference all the way from its original authoring in Drupal 7, which is excellent. That's what we encourage and want people to do, so that the full history of the project is maintained from its initial creation, even if it originally came from Drupal. That way we maintain the Git history, maintains the basically the copyright ownership of the original authors. So it's important for us. Anyway, that issue 1301, very exciting. Needs some help testing and taking a look at that implementation. Okay, well, that's the rundown on 122, and I'm not sure if I said this directly, but that entity reference issue is probably almost certainly too late for 122, but I would like us to start like penciling it in that that's an excellent 123 feature. I think that we're all coming around to the new approach. I don't want to rush it though, and start looking at that very, very seriously as probably being the banner feature for 123, the next release that will come out after this. So let's see, that is over the summer. That would be September 15th release. Should be very exciting. It's like it's like the biggest hole in our functionality, I think, and it'll be so great to start moving that forward. Okay, well, that's all we have for today that's on the agenda. Let's see, Justin has joined us as well. Tim, Robert, Justin, do you guys have anything else you'd like to discuss?
Go back to that disable blocks. Did you comment on Doc Wilmot's last question about the need for an upgrade path?
Yeah, let's talk about that. I don't know if an upgrade path is needed or not.
Okay.
What do you think? Like okay, so let's talk about precedent here. Usually, if we do the exact same thing as a contrib module, we can, and we have in the past done something that actually disables the contrib module and then posts a message after running update.php. There's a difference from a module that has been merged into core, like as a standalone module, like link module or email module or redirect module. Those still exist as standalone modules in core. They just got moved from contrib. However, when we sometimes incorporate all the functionality of a contrib module into core, but it's now built into one of the core modules, like layout module would just provide this functionality. Sometimes what we've done is we disable the contrib module, provide an upgrade path to migrate the data from one to the other, and then after they run update.php, we display a message saying this module has been disabled because it is now built into layout module. That module may be deleted from your system. So we have done that in the past. Where I'm kind of hesitating here is that I don't know how, like, it seems like fairly high risk to take something that used to be hidden and trying to hide it in a different way, that if we were to accidentally expose a block that was hiding data and suddenly it started showing data, that could cause a big problem for people. So it's high risk, and it's also a little bit of high effort, and I'm not sure that the module is widely used. So I'm kind of looking at all these things saying maybe this isn't a situation that an upgrade path makes a lot of sense.
I just looked, the usage stats are 6 active installs.
Yeah, there you go. I think that maybe should be enough for us to say no. Yeah. Do you have any thoughts?
That all makes sense to me. I've never really thought a lot about these issues, so I don't have a lot to offer.
Yeah, well, I always try to take the pragmatic approach to things, so that's what I think makes a lot of sense. It's not 100% consistent, but it is the approach that would make it so that we can move this forward very quickly. So
Sure.
yeah, I'll go ahead and post a comment to that issue as well. Disable blocks. At least I will open a tab, start typing a sentence, and then I'll find it later.
Right. Good luck.
Okay. All right. Well, I think we might wrap up for today, unless there's anything else we would like to discuss. Okay.
Okay. One thing. Well, I have had it in my head that feature freeze was like June 1st and a few days ago. And so the blog post that Robert, you have commented was so helpful in the last release. We did a blog post where everybody could post the issues that they most wanted help with. And people seemed to like that. It seemed to be helpful. And I had been thinking I would do it at the end of the month, but the end of the month would be too late. I will try to do that in the next day or two, because I still think there's enough time left that would be helpful. And so basically, if anybody has things that they need help with, or they want to, try to get into the next release, they should either just edit the blog post that I put up themselves, or put a note and flag me and Zulip, and I will update the blog post. And if you don't remember, it was just a blog post that said, you know, we have a release coming up in a few weeks. Here are some of the issues that people in our community have identified as, you know, important. And it seemed to get a lot of traction last release cycle. I've done it a couple of times.
It was nice that you limited it, that you said to a maximum of 3, you know,
Right.
because I could put up, 15 things that I'm working on. But when you say, nope, you get 3, that keeps it manageable.
And I think what it does is in that final week or two before the release is people can look at that and see, you know, where can I most effectively put my time that other people care about. And I know I use that a lot. I went down that list and tried to help review and test issues that I, you know, was able to on that list last time. And I think we got a few things in because of it.
Mhm.
That's the last thing. Sorry, Nate.
Okay.
Mhm.
Sounds great. I think that's a great idea. Yeah, like you said, it drummed up a lot of last minute enthusiasm, and
Mhm.
I'm all for that. All right, well, let's wrap up for today. Thank you so much, folks, for being here. Let's try to wrap up these issues that have, it's kind of like we kind of set out these particular issues really early in the release, and it would be nice. It seems like almost all of them are closing in on completion. It would be nice if we knocked out all of the ones that we shot for this release, which seems likely. So thank you so much, and we'll see everyone again next week.